Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Bible in a Year 2021. We are on day 325. And today we're going to be reading through Acts 13 and 14. And here we find some really great stuff with Paul and Barnabas. And it starts off with naming off who the ministers, if you want to call them that, the ministers, the part of the fivefold that has been set aside to serve the church in Antioch. These are the founding members, if you want, and they're there to provide the teaching and the grounding and the training for the Christians in Antioch. And it names them there just so that you can see, and you can see that there's none of the original 12, and yet we have miracles going on, we have prophecy going on, we have teaching going on, we have all kinds of stuff going on. The original 12's not there. The reason I'm emphasizing this is because there's so many in the church that believe that miracles, healings don't exist anymore, because that authority was only with the original 12, and it's clear here. In fact, as Paul goes out, we see that things happen through Paul and Barnabas, and especially through Paul, as Paul speaks, and people are made blind and so on, and it's through the tangible, it's through the manifestation of the kingdom that people's hearts are softened to the truth of the gospel, and that's what we see. But something that I want to point out here is the whole thing about Paul's relationship with Antioch. Okay, because we know here there's going to be a split. John Mark abandons them at one point, and later, when Paul and Barnabas are talking about going back out to encourage the churches that they had founded, there's a split because Barnabas wants to take John Mark and Paul says no, and they end up splitting. But that church, I want you to understand that church in Antioch remains the place that Paul's answerable to. It's not to Jerusalem. It's not to the council. Paul is not their agent. Okay, Paul doesn't work for them. Paul is not sent out by them. It is the church in Antioch there originally that laid hands on Barnabas and Saul, that set them aside for this purpose of going out and planting churches. And so you'll notice that when Paul goes out on his journeys, like originally Barnabas and Paul come back and they report to Antioch. They report to the brothers and sisters in Antioch when they come back. And when Paul goes out on another, he'll come back and he'll do the same thing. And he does that. He comes back. He may come back through Jerusalem to deposit off whatever he needs to, maybe share some testimonies and stuff, but he goes back to Antioch and spends some time there being renewed and sharing the work of what's going on. And it was on his last, it wouldn't have been his last, but because he was arrested, this was his last trip. He was stopping in Jerusalem on his way back to Antioch. And that's what he does. And he would stop, pay his respect to James and the elders there, to give his gifts, because he had done that collection. And then he was asked to make pledge with these, to pay for the pledge of these devout Jews, and the whole arrest happens and stuff. But he was on his way back to Antioch, and that just it's important to understand that Paul did not see himself as not being accountable. He did see himself as being accountable. He was accountable to Antioch. He was accountable to those who had sent him out. That was his home base. That was his home church. That was his support. Although he founded all these churches, he set up all these elders and such in these other places, it's still back to that home church. So we need to understand that there's always accountability. Accountability is built into our faith system. It's built into our relationship with the Lord, that he's given us brothers and sisters to be accountable to, not in a bad way, not so they can tear us down, but so they can encourage us, and so that we can be faithful to the things that we've pledged ourselves to do. And that's really important. And so don't be afraid of that. You should be developing relationships where you will be held accountable, where people will ask how your soul is. You need that. You need to have people who are honest enough to say, so how is it with you and the Lord these days? For the whole purpose of accountability. Anyway, just wanted to lay that on you. You guys have a blessed and wonderful day, and we will catch up with you tomorrow.